Everybody, Mike 31 back here for FSI DFS. Um, Interesting day in baseball, and again, DK and FanDuel can't agree with which slate's main and which slate's early or late. And again, they have different games on them too, because right now FanDuel has a 5-game early slate, and they're called the night slate, which is 3 games, their main. And DK has a 4-game main slate, which is the early one. And then the 3-game um, slate they're calling a late, which is starts at 7:10. So, anyways, there was a Cincinnati and Cleveland game that was rained out yesterday. FanDuel does have it on. DK does not currently, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see like these players are added to the player pool and they put the game on. You never know. So just got to pay attention to those things before lock. Speaking of before lock, yesterday, I know we didn't have an early video, but I did promise you that I would throw out some information on early, and I did. I put it in the notes, and those who went back for FanDuel, the gray at pitcher with the Minnesota Colorado stack went off, and actually I finished third in the 555 GPP, and I was one utility player away from taking down the 10 grand. So, and there were all guys that I looked at. I just chose a San Francisco guy that I thought was right-hander against left-hander in Coors Field. I thought that was the answer, but it wasn't. But I'm happy with what I won, and we're on to make some more money today. So let's start looking at these games. It's nice again today. Doesn't look like there's really many weather concerns coming up. I was talking with McKinley this morning. He said that Coors Field could get a foot of snow in over the weekend, so that could be interesting. But today we are good. So we'll start off in Baltimore with the Yankees. Jordan Montgomery, Bruce Zimmerman. Montgomery, I think, is probably going to be most people's SP1 and cash games here. You get to see Orioles. He's been good this season. Like, he doesn't have a ton of K upside. The Orioles provide a little bit for that. Also, the park factor there. We haven't seen as many runs there since they moved the fences back. So I think Montgomery is definitely a good safe option here. Zimmerman on the other side is very interesting. He did put up 25 points in Baltimore against the Yankees. He went I think it was 6 innings with 0 runs and 6 Ks. So he did face him again in Yankee Stadium. He gave up 3 runs there, but he also had 6 Ks. So I think, even seeing yesterday, we thought, like, again, Watkins, the Yankees were in a complete smash spot, and they only put up, I think, three or 4 runs. It wasn't a high scoring game there. So I think, for me, I think the Yankees might be a GPP stack today. Or I definitely can see playing with cash, like Judge and some of these guys have just been on another level. Just watch for rest. It is a Thursday. It's a getaway day. So, most teams will be traveling today. And we did see Judge rest a couple of days ago. Stan had the day off. Against the lefty, I wouldn't be surprised if Rizzo is the one that sits. So, again, when lineups come out, just have to watch on those. Orioles on the other side, I think, I'm not really interested in them in bats today, but on such a small slate, I can see, you're probably playing everybody, but like Cedric Mullins, I just don't get it. He's facing a lefty and he's 5'3". So expensive. That's absolutely crazy. He's $900 less than Aaron Judge. Like, who would you rather play? Just astounding pricing there. Something's wrong with that algorithm. Next game up, we have the San Diego Padres and Philadelphia Phillies. We have Yu Darvish versus Kyle Gibson. Darvish has not been the same pitcher he'd been for the last couple of years when he first came out into the scene, but I think that he is okay against this Philly team. We'll have to see if Harper's back in the lineup. I know he's was out yesterday, but it's probably because they were facing a lefty. He has that UCL tear. They're really trying to nurse it to try to heal him so he doesn't have to go out for surgery. So we'll have to see about that. And I actually looked in the BVP versus about 4 of these guys. And again, like, Darvish has declined definitely since his days with the Cubs and with the Dodgers. 4 of the guys here are hitting, I think it was, I think they're more towards the bottom of the order, but they're hitting like under 200 versus him in at least 15 plate appearances. So I think Darvish makes sense here. Is he safe? I'm not saying that. Wind looks like it's blowing in a little bit, 8 miles per hour. So Philadelphia is decent offensive park. I mean, it's not like a pitcher's park like Citi Field. Yeah, it's not Coors Field, it's somewhere in the middle. So I think there's a good case for making Darvish your SP2 here. Gibson on the other side against these Padres. I think I like Darvish a little bit more, but I think you can make a case for Gibson. Also, bat wise, I think they're more like GPP. I think I'm interested in a Philly stack, maybe more than a Padres stack, just because we have seen Darvish on occasion get blown up. But in cash games, I don't think I'm playing any of these guys. The Cincinnati Reds and Cleveland Guardians, this is only on FanDuel. You have Miley and Cottrell. I think either one of these pitchers makes sense, but on a one pitcher slate, are you really going to play them in a cash game? I don't think so. Miley against Cleveland looks good. Just his numbers for the season are decent. But then again, Cleveland really hasn't struck out that much, and they're in the upper 15 in most of offensive categories. And then Cincinnati on the other side is, been striking out a lot. So I think, Quattro makes a little bit of sense there too. Maybe in a GPP to throw him in there if you're trying to stack some high dollar bats. But other than that, I think you're pretty much going to leave this game. Maybe interested in like a Cleveland stack in a GPP. Cincinnati, I mean, if you're mass multi-entering, you're play everybody, like you said, but I think I like Cleveland side better bat wise. St. Louis Cardinals and the New York Mets, you have Dakota Hudson and Chris Bassett. Chris Bassett has had a solid season. He's 10-5, so he's very expensive in the context of the slate here. Most expensive pitcher on FanDuel too. And like I said, if you look at his box score, he's been very, very good. The only problem is St. Louis is dead last in the last 15 days in strikeouts. So there's not much K upside here. It's a pitcher's park. I think he has a really good game. Can he get enough points to pay off the 10-5? I don't know. I think I'd rather take somebody like Montgomery, Darvish, or maybe Gibson. Hudson on the other side, have to see the Mets lineup. I know they're banged up and some guys are out. Marte's not there. He's a righty, so Nemo and McNeil and Lindor, like some of the guys at the top of the lineup. But I think if you're looking for a cheap flyer in a GPP at SP2, I think he's fine. Then we have what could potentially be a very, very high scoring game. You've got wind blowing out at least 10 miles per hour, 83 degrees, great hitting weather. So I think you're going to see home runs. You're going to see runs here. And you've got two bad pitchers. You have Vince Velasquez and Carlos Hernandez. Velasquez is a little bit better than Hernandez. So if you want to get cute in a GPP and put him as your SP2, because Kansas City, they've lost Perez there. Although the catcher that's replaced him, this MJ Melendez, he has actually been really good. So not Salvador Perez good, but he's been decent. He's only 3-4, where Salvador Perez is sometimes 5-6K. So pricing starting to come down on KC after leaving Coors Field. It was just absolutely absurd the last few days. So I really like offenses both sides. I think White Sox definitely a top stack on the slate. Kansas City, I think there's definitely some pieces here that you can mix in. Like I said, if catcher at 3-4 for Melendez isn't a bad play. Benintendi, Witt, Merrifield, then you have a bunch of other cheap guys. But I think you're going to see a lot of runs here, and I think you're going to see a lot of scoring. So let's look at the builds. I did both DK and FanDuel here. So on DK, Montgomery is my SP1. I have to decide if I want Darvish, if I want to pay up for Bassett here, or go Gibson as my SP2. I'm going to go with a White Sox stack here, like Moncada, Anderson, L. Roberts. You can throw in some Yankees here too, if you can want to go Judge and Stanton. But I really think I like Benintendi in the slot here. You can punt and catcher. I think the Baltimore catcher and the Mets catcher, like Nito, are really, really cheap, under 2.5. So again, you're just with the Yankees lineup, you're just gonna have to watch and see if they're resting people. So I can definitely see playing Yankees and White Sox both in cash. I think I'm going to really target this game in Kansas City with the hot weather and the wind blowing out and the two bad pitchers. So maybe I'll take a one-off Yankee in here if I can get in and fill in with Kansas City and White Sox. So on the GPP here, I think, here's where I'd play Bassett, because I think it would lower ownership if people aren't going to pay up for the left K upside here. So again, I'm probably going to stack the Yankees and GVP just because I think Zimmerman is a really good pitcher. And I think maybe some of these guys might be out in the lineup. And then I'll fill in with Kansas City again, or whoever I can to make it work. It might be a combination of White Sox and Royals, whatever works to make this this stack work with paying up for the top pitcher here. In a YOLO, like I could see, you would play any Yankees, but Zimmerman. So if you wanted to do like Zimmerman as your pitcher and Gibson, and then take a Philly stack against Darvish, I could also see that as like kind of a YOLO GPP. On FanDuel, it's so much easier to stack the White Sox and the Yankees with Montgomery. You can get almost everybody in there. You're going to have to play one off, and like I said, Benintendi is pretty cheap and a decent play there, or even playing Melendez, the catcher, in your utility spot or first base there if Rizzo's out, because all the White Sox, there's like 4 guys, but they're all like not really good. You have Sheets, you have Abreu's not been doing really good. Moncada is okay there. Like, so you have a lot of options that you can throw in that stack at first base there, but maybe you just want to punt it and just go with sorry, I don't remember Moncada. I mean Abreu, Grandal fits in there, Sheets fits there in there, and I think Andrew Vaughn fits in there. So none of them are really on a good hitting streak. None of them are having like light up the world season stats, so might be a way to go there. And here for GPP, I'm going to take Bassett, and I'm going to go with a Cleveland stack and a Philly stack, just because I think they're going to be pretty low owned. I think people are going to overlook that Cleveland and Cincinnati game, especially if they do all their research online, and most sites only cover DK things, so they're not going to have information on the Cleveland and the Cincinnati games. So I think that stack will go overlooked, hopefully, like Minnesota was yesterday and Houston was the night before when they lit up the Red Sox and hit 5 home runs the same inning, and maybe that will be the moneymaker today. So just want to quickly look at the main slate, or the late slate, whatever we're calling that, the 7-10 one. It's only 3 games. I think it's very straightforward. You have Zach Gallen as the highest price pitcher. He is in Chicago. The wind's blowing out. So, and he's like 10-2 on DK. Like, do you really want to pay that much for Gallen? I know he's had solid stats for the season. I know he's up against a White Sox team. Or not White Sox, a Cubs team that does have some strikeouts. So I can see playing, but I think he's more of a GPP. I think even though he hasn't been great this year, I think Valdez is your SP1 against the Texas Rangers at home. And then I think Rich Hill you want as your SP2 there. So just quickly going to the games, you have Boston and the Mariners. So Hill, like I said, against this Mariner team, I think makes sense as SP2. Kirby, I could see potentially also being your SP2. He had a really good first start. His second start wasn't as good, but he still is only given up like 1 run in his starts here. And Boston has struggled at times. So wind is blowing across the field 6 miles per hour. It's only 56 degrees, so it's not a super great hitting environment. It could be a little bit wet before the game too, with some rain tapering off. So I think, Kirby's more of a GPP guy, and Hill, I think, is probably going to be a cash SP2. Boston, I think, would make the second most likely cash stack here. And although like the outfielder is so tough to play. Kiki really hasn't been great. JD has, but he's expensive. Verdugo, I think, is okay. Lefty righty matchup there. Cordero, Jackie Bradley. It's just really, when you're stacking Boston, like the outfielders, you just got to find another team that has solid outfielders, like maybe with Houston. Makes some sense there. Arizona and the Cubs, like I said, I think I like both offensive here. Stroman returns after coming back. I can't remember if it's COVID or an injury, but he's been okay this season, and the Diamondbacks are a decent matchup for him. So I think he could be a little bit sneaky here at 7K, but just like with the wind blowing out, being 78 degrees, maybe up into the 80s, I just don't think he's safe. And Gallon, I think, is a great GPP start. Probably going to have low ownership in cash just with his price tag, because people want to get these Houston bats in and probably like stack with Boston, and you're not going to be able to do that unless you're even with Hill. It's just too expensive. So final game, like I said, Valdez for Houston against Glenn Otto for the Rangers. Definitely fade Glenn Otto. Rangers, I think, are probably the cheapest stack you could have on the slate. Like Valdez has given up some runs, but other than coming alive like out of nowhere against Ditmire for the Angels, but that was at home a couple days ago. I just don't think I really see it here. So I only did DK here, a couple quick breakdowns here. Like I said, Valdez and Hill, I think, are the pitchers that I'm choosing here. Stacking Houston, Altuve, Bregman, Alvarez, and Brantley if they're in. Then you need to make your decision if you want to play Gurriel or if you want to play Tucker. For your final guy there, I might just leave them out, because in order to get JD Martinez in, who I think is really the only outfielder you really want to stack from Boston, and Xander at shortstop, you're really probably going to want to punt like catcher and first base for that build. If you maybe Maldonado throw in a catcher, because if that could potentially work too, and then just have to find a cheap first baseman. And for the GPP build, Gallon and Kirby, just based on their upside, hopefully Boston has a bad night. Kirby returns to his first game form. Gallon continues his season long, even with the wind and the Cubs, and strikes them out, has a good game. And then I want Arizona as a stack here. So give me Vercherio. Walker first base is optional. If you have a better option there, I'm perfectly fine with that. Marte is day-to-day, so he might not be there second. Rojas and Pab Smith, I think, are the core guys that I would look at. And then, maybe I was thinking about throwing a Seattle stack in there just against Hill. He's been having decent this season, but maybe they come alive tonight. Again, it's a GPP stack, so I definitely like some of their and Hill sometimes doesn't go very deep into the game, so I'm okay playing Winker lefty and lefty there, and Crawford lefty and lefty. But Toro's probably going to lead off, so if Marte's not in there, there's a decent play at second base there. And then definitely Julio Rodriguez is definitely somebody I'm going to look at too. Throw a Houston guy in there if you want to. If you can't find enough outfielders from either team, you can always move Vercherio to outfield also, and punt catcher there too. So lots of options for a 3-game slate. I think you can play around with a couple things and come up with something solid. But I think definitely the more intriguing slate is the early slate today. So I'm Megalo31. If you have any questions, put them in the chat below. We'll try to get back to you. Hit me up at Twitter, Megalo31. Appreciate you watching. Please give us a like, subscribe to our channel so you know when all our videos are coming out. You can see all the other videos that we have coverage of there too. Big NASCAR weekend, we'll have at least 2 videos there. I don't know if we're going to do one for the Cup race, because it's an all-star race. You really can't, you're not going to know what the starting order is or who even makes it in there until probably an hour before locks. So might not do that one, but we should have trucks. We should have Xfinity. I know the PGA guys put out a video for, I think that's probably already locked by this time, but lots of great content. So check it out. For more information on FSI DFS, check out the details of the video, and it's all there for you. The link to the site, the Discord is in the bio. So thanks for watching. I'm Megalo31. Good luck today, and we'll see you next time.